Here we go, part 3 of Blue Dunes. Okay, I think we're videoing. So here's my reference and here's my value study. And I think I've done a pretty good job. I love these shapes in here and I like what happened with the ink. And now I'm going to switch over to watercolor. And I'm going to try to make a sandy kind of color. And I'm going to mix up a big... I'm going to try to mix up a big puddle of it here. And I'm using raw sienna. And I have a lot of area to paint. So I want to make sure that I have enough. I just squeeze out some fresh paint, so I'm experiencing some issues. So that's too bright to me. I'm going to mix some lavender with it to dull it down. And that's going to be more of a sandy color. I'll neutralize it just a little bit. And why I want to do this on the palette is I want the paint to be thoroughly blended before I start painting. That's a little bit brighter than that. Well, let's try this. Maybe it's got a tad of red in it. A tad. Oh, that was too much. So back to drawing board. That's not bad though. Well, again, I'm adding just a little neutral to it. It's not too bad. So I see that I have some color back here. I want to keep a little bit of that to be another dune. I'm taking advantage of this having this acrylic ink down because I can go right over it. Yay! That's a big deal for me. I can go right over this. And I'm not leaving any white paper, but I want to make sure this is wet enough. I'm getting down to the last of my paint now. I was kind of afraid of that, so I have to mix a little more. It's not a bad match. And that is, that's nice and wet. That's a wet and wet thing. So that kind of changed the complexion of this dramatically. And some of these other little, where this cool goes over here, that's going to be important. But I have to let this dry first because I'm going to glaze color on top of that. And I'm mixing just a little cooler and darker batch. I even put a little burnt sienna in there just to redden it up. And go back to the raw sienna. Going to go back to the raw sienna, and now I've got a little darker tone for this. So I'm going to, there you go, look at that. That's pretty good. I want to just start putting a few little transitional shadows in there. This little, where that comes around the corner. And this has a little kind of bowl connected with that, and I've already done that. The same here, I've got a little something happening. So that's just breaking that up, and when it's wet and wet, it actually works very well. I'm just gonna break this up a little bit with some while it's still damp. And again, I want to use that lavender color to just kind of give it a little feel to it of that those footprints, or those textured places. There's a little bit here, so this is not the only place I'm going to use it. And there's a little bit of texture going on here. I can't hardly see that because of the lights, but anyway, I think that's probably enough for the next phase of this. And so we'll turn it off and let it dry. Okay, I'm going to try to paint the shadows in the sand, and I'm using, that's the reason I use the watercolor, transparent watercolor, is because I can glaze over it. I'm going to, using cobalt, but I'm going to dirty it up a little bit with a little bit of burnt sienna, because I don't want it to be too blue. So we'll see how that works. I've got a little bit happening back there, and I've got this whole area here that's in shadow. So we'll just start, take a shot at doing that. And we'll see if it's dark enough. I love being able to go right over the acrylic. That's very cool. So that's that. This kind of goes down and up a little bit. That's that. And I think I'm going to start off, I'm not nearly as dark as what's on here. And that's actually okay with me for now. I think this is too dark. I have this beautiful lovely slash of shadow coming down from something here, and it's helping to define these dunes in front. I'm going to mix a little stronger combination. I see that I have some shadow going on in there. I don't want to get too precious with this. I do have a shadow going on from this bush because the light's coming from the right. And I actually do like this texture that is coming from using the side of the brush. I think that's going to be enough. And I see I have kind of some of this happening over here. And again, I want to use, I'm trying to use the side of my brush to get some of that texture happening. And my fingers, of course. And some of these little footprints or these dune marks will be in cooled off. So I just want to be careful enough where, not so careful, I mean, that I don't want it to look contrived. I want it to look natural. And it's always problematic when I'm putting this in and not spattering, or something that's much more organic. So I kind of like the way this is ending up now. That's going to be soft enough. I want to take just to make a little texture going on and through there, I think. And that's enough. And this is going to be another little whatever. Soften that edge out slightly. And I think this is the next step in the evolution of this painting. How much further we'll take it, I don't know, but I think for now I will. I'm going to do something here because I hadn't finished this off. And I'm going to try some of the burnt sienna, which is kind of close to the sepia. I'm doing kind of a contaminated mix, and I'm putting in some, just some kind of neutral foreground. I don't want it nearly as spelled out as the as what's going on in these dunes, and I think I will. And I don't want a lot of contrast down here. I want this to be almost no contrast, but it doesn't hurt to have a little volume to that. That's pretty good. That's I like that neutral color. And just to there we go. That's better going that way than the other way. Anyway, I think that's enough to just settle that down a little bit and give that a little foundation at the bottom. So I think I'll stop, take a look, and put another little dab right there to link those two, and we'll look at it again.